Okay.
Good afternoon. This is Jean Johansson with the Writers Guild of Virginia. Thank you all for coming. We're very proud today to have David Reid Brown launching his book, which Cindy's going to tell you about.
Well, I'm not going to necessarily tell you about the book because I haven't read it, but welcome to David's launch. As we go along, we were going to have you put your questions in the chat, but I think with so few of us, we can just call out questions. We'll have an opportunity to ask at the end as time allows. As you know, this launch is sponsored by the Writers Guild of Virginia. My name is Cindy Freeman, and I'm a board member with the Writers Guild, and Jean Johansson is chairperson of the organization. I met Chaplain Brown last year at the Williamsburg Book Festival. He and I exchanged books since we both write in the Christian genre. And I have to say, I thoroughly enjoyed his book, Lost Summer. Lost Summer is a collection of prayers that he wrote while deployed. And he shared with the crew of the U.S., is it Bataan or Baton?
Baton.
Baton. So while he was deployed with the crew from July to, I believe, September of 2005, in his position as Navy chaplain. And you may or may not recall that this period surrounded Hurricane Katrina, a Category 5 storm that caused more than 1,800 deaths and $100 billion in damages along the Gulf Coast of the United States. It became a journey of surprises, I think he would agree, and hardships during which his prayers were both life-saving and morale-saving. I felt like I was aboard the ship with him, experiencing these trials and challenges that the crew lived through. I haven't yet, excuse me, I haven't yet had the opportunity to read Faith, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. I think we can all agree that life as a Navy chaplain would be fascinating, whether serving during peacetime or wartime. It would require a set of skills that most of us couldn't even imagine possessing. But all you have to do to realize the extent of these skills is to read Lost Summer, or one of David's 3 volumes of Spirit Soundings. But this afternoon, I'd like to hear from David about his life as an author. So tell us, David, how and when did you get started writing? What prompted you to write about your experiences and to seek publication?
Well, first of all, thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Jean, for hosting me this afternoon. And thank you for Emma and Sarah being present at the meeting. So I began keeping a journal shortly after I went to my first Navy ship back in 2000. And the journal morphed into 9/11, and I just kept writing, kept keeping the journal. And it was a combination of prayers and emails and notes to home and the daily shipboard life. So it started way back in 2000. And after that deployment was done, I got to my next ship in 2005, and I just continued the journal. And I had no idea Katrina was going to happen, but I just kept writing and kept recording. And from those 2 stories, those 2 events, I had one more underway period in the Pacific late in my career. But I kept all of those compressed in a Rubbermaid container because while you're on active duty, you can't publish anything. It's a conflict of interest. But just about 6 months before I retired, I contacted a Christian publisher, and he said, hey, I think you've got a story there, particularly that one around 9/11 called Spirit Soundings. And he asked me to compile it and put a rough draft together. And he took the rough draft and he said that you need to divide the story into 3 volumes. And I didn't know that because the book was 1,000 pages long. He said, Mr. Brown, no one will read a 1,000-page book. Forget it. it's dead on arrival. So he said, split it up, and it did. It split perfectly. So I've been writing, keeping a journal since about the year 2000.
Cool. Welcome, Maureen. Can you hear us? She's connecting.
Okay.
I'll give her just a second here.
Okay.
I'm having to like toggle between speakers. I can hear and then it goes out, and I switch
Oh.
speakers and I can hear.
Okay, well, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah.
Maureen, can you hear us?
Yeah.
I can. I'm sorry I'm late.
You're fine. Thank
good.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for being here.
Mhm.
Maureen is also a member of the Writers Group of Virginia. And I sent out a reminder, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Well, David, I know that you are currently a high school teacher at Grace Christian School in Mechanicsville. So my question is, how do you find time to write?
Well, that's interesting. I think Mrs. Brightwell sort of knows the answer to this. So in my morning devotions, I'm usually up around 3:30 or 4 in the morning, which
Ooh.
sounds early to most people,
Yeah.
but that's the time that I really have an opportunity to really hear the Lord. And nobody's up, and there's no noise outside, and I have a clear signal. And I just listen to the Lord and write at that time. So during the school year, it's mornings and weekends and, Christmas break. But summer is my sweet spot. Summer is when I do most of my writing. I'm blessed to have a beach house down in the Outer Banks. And I go down there, and for a week, I just do nothing but write. I mean, all day. And so that's my sweet spot, the summertime. So between summers and early mornings at 4 a.m., that's when I do the bulk of my writing, compiling.
You must go to bed at 7 p.m.
It's around 9, and some of my students laugh at me. Oh, Mr. Brown, you're such an early bird. Yeah, but don't ask me to do anything coherent after 9 o'clock. It just won't turn out well.
Yeah.
But ask me to do anything at 4 a.m. and I'm ready to go.
Amazing. Well, I'll be
Yeah.
giving you a call around 4 a.m. just to see if
Hey.
you're up.
Let's chat. I'll be working on my first cup of coffee by then. Yeah.
Well, I think this would be a good time for you to either read a portion of your book or to introduce your guest speaker.
Well, I think I'd like to introduce the guest speaker for 2 reasons, because I know Mrs. Sarah Brightwell really well. We've worked together at Grace Christian School. She's a language arts teacher for the high school. And that's number one. Then number 2, when I found out that she's an avid prayer journaler, I said, yes, that's exactly what faith is. It teaches people how to begin the devotional practice of writing your own prayers to God. And when I heard that or overheard that she does that, I was like, that's perfect. Thank you, Lord, for putting that person in my life to review my book. So if we can get through and Sarah can speak, I would love for her to share her experience thus far.
Excellent. Before you speak, Sarah, I just want to welcome Joyce. You can hear us okay, Joyce? Okay, wonderful. All right, Miss Sarah Brightwell.
Hello, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. It was going in and out a little, but first I just want to say thank you, David, for getting this book in my hands and giving me the honor and privilege to be one of the first to read through Faith. So yeah, so I started prayer journaling probably in my 20s. And what I love about it is Mr. Brown's book has a place. So it starts with a devotion, and then he asks you, like, what is God stirring in your heart? And then there's a place in the book where you can write your prayers. It also includes down bottom faith builders, and he gives you like 3 words to kind of use when you're journaling, which is great for even like high school kids who want to start journaling. But what I love about journaling your prayers is, one, you have this record of faithfulness. I shared with Mr. Brown that I don't tell many people, but I have all these prayer journals, and I always tell my best friend, if something happens to me, please go get all my prayer journals, and I want you to give them to my kids, because that's my heart, that's my relationship with the Lord. So I really think that, I think it's a women's ministry speaker by the name of Lisa Harper. I don't know if anybody's familiar with her, but she always says knowledge of God pales in comparison to intimacy with God. And so when we're journaling our prayers, I feel like it creates this intimacy between you and God. And that's what I love about Mr. Brown's book is he's teaching and guiding people to journal their prayers so that they can develop, not just be knowledgeable about God, but develop this intimacy with God through their prayer writing. It's powerful. But then I also like that. So for a long time, I would journal my prayers and it would almost be like my diary entry, and I'd close it up and walk away. And I forgot the important aspect when I was younger of like just being still and listening. Like, okay, I've poured this prayer out now. What is God saying back to me? What is God stirring in my heart? What do I hear? And so I love that Mr. Brown's book prompts us to think about those things as well. So it's just been I've been reading it. It's a 12-week devotional, and I have had it for 4 weeks. And so there's 5 days for each week. And so I will go ahead, like on day 6 and 7 of the week, I kind of jump a week ahead. So I've actually had the chance to read a full 5 weeks or so now. But it's been really great. And I'm excited to get it in the hands of my teenagers. I have 4 teenagers as well. And so I'm excited for them to get it in their hands as well.
Sarah, is there a particular portion that you would like to share with us of David's work?
I'm sorry, you went out just a minute. What was the question?
Is there a particular part of the book that you would like to share with us that really spoke to you?
Thank your question. Sorry, you kept going in and out a little bit. I think it was there a particular part I would like to share or a particular devotion? They're all really good. I shared with David. I just recently let me flip open to it really quick. It was in week 4, I believe. Day 5, was one of my favorites. It was just talking about blessings and burdens. And so it starts out with the devotion, and it was actually talking about juxtaposition, which my freshman just wrote essays on this, which we learned juxtaposition is placing 2 things and compare side by side to compare and contrast them. But he was comparing and contrasting the blessings and burdens and how those 2 you can compare and contrast them. And it was just really good. I don't know if you want me to share the exact, like read the devotional or the prayer, or what aspect you would want me to share.
What would be your pleasure, David?
I'd love for her to read it. While we've got you and we can hear you, go ahead and read it, Sarah.
Sure. So the devotional part that every day starts off with, this one is day 5 of week 4, blessings and burdens. And it says, early on in my career as an artist, I learned about the word juxtaposition, which means placing 2 things together for the purpose of contrast and comparison. I learned that using juxtaposition in style and medium could make your artwork very powerful and dramatic. For example, when you juxtapose light and dark, thick and thin, bright and dull, warm and cool, or smooth and rough, you instantly create visual interest that grabs the attention of the viewer. Juxtaposition is one of the cleverest conventions used in the visual arts. When we consider that our life is comprised of blessings, favor, and burdens, misfortune, that coexist, then the juxtaposition of these 2 experiences creates more paradox than peace. Why should the experiences of life and death, health and illness, and elation and disappointment ever be connected to each other? Is it even possible to experience blessings that are untethered to burdens? I believe that it's always good to be able to count your blessings, but as you mature in your walk with the Lord, you learn to leave some space for experiencing burdens as well. Whenever blessings and burdens go hand in hand, we must ask God to grant us wisdom and peace and continue to make a way for us, especially if we don't understand what's happening to us. This kind of juxtaposition presents a point of growth and maturation of our faith in the Lord. So that's kind of like the devotion. And then we have where Mr. Brown was journaling his prayers from on board ship. And he has that prayer. The prayer that goes with that one was from 2002. And then he asked us, what is God saying to you through reading this prayer, his prayer? And then how has your heart been moved to action? And then that's where it allows for a space for you, but underneath has faith builders, which is one of my favorite things. So the faith builders for this devotional day were blessings, burdens, and God. And it makes it really simple, even for our younger kids to break those down and then use them in the prayer. So he wrote blessings, which are the multiple ways in which God bestows favor upon your life. Burdens are the worry and concern we assign to people and situations. And God, the way maker and sustainer in every situation that life presents.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that, David. It sounds like
Yes.
something that, well, it sounds very similar to a book that I wrote
Yes,
in its format.
right.
And there's an opportunity for journaling. I love that. But I wondered, does it in any way chronicle your naval service years like your other books, or have you taken a totally different direction with this book?
Well, this is the compilation of the rest of my unpublished prayers. So like the back of the book says, there's over 200 prayers that I prayed at sea. Spirit Soundings has a portion of those prayers. Lost Summer has a specific portion of those prayers, but there's a big thick folder about this thick of all these prayers at home that were unpublished.
Ah,
And the Lord laid on my heart what I should do with those. And he said, entitle it Psalms from the Sea, because they're poetry and writing that you derived literally while I was out at sea. And there were so many of them that it turned into 5 books. And so
wow.
this is volume 1 of 5. The next volume is Wisdom, due out in March. The next volume is called Mirrors, due out in August of 2024. And then every 6 months after that till it finishes in 2025. And this is all, Lord willing, this is all, Mr.
Sure.
Brown, you need to keep getting up at 4 a.m. You need to keep writing in the summers, and the rest of life that has to happen. But I'm already writing Wisdom right now. I took a little hiatus from Wisdom because I need to market Faith. But in November, which is like a week and a half from now, I've got to get back on Wisdom because I want to get back on track and be able to debut that. Sarah mentioned something, one of the unique aspects. The Lord really led me to write this for middle school and high school students. And that's why I have it broken down in such simple language. And that's why I have the faith builders, because some kids may not know how to pray or how to write. Well, the faith builders, those 3 vocabulary words are like kickstarted for them. If I don't know what else to say, I can write down these 3 faith builders. And it sort of like primes the pump for them to start relating and speaking to God and recording that. And so adults can definitely read it, but my target audience for faith is middle school and high school students.
Okay. Then does that change with the next book? Is it a different level?
It is a little bit deeper. So it is predicated. If you read Faith, you'll have a better understanding about wisdom. Wisdom is about life lessons that God teaches us every day. Are we incorporating them into our life?
Yeah.
Some people learn through experience, but experience can be a hard teacher sometimes. But the wisdom of God is always speaking to us and teaching us life lessons that we need to apply. So there's a group of prayers that deal with wisdom and our life being in accordance with God's will, and are we living it out? That's what wisdom is about. Do you want me to go through the rest, or is that okay for now?
Oh, I think that's awesome. You know what? I would love to see the cover. I have not even seen the cover.
Well, I've not seen the cover either
Oh,
yet.
you haven't.
So
Sarah,
here's the thing. So Emma's laughing and Sarah's laughing because they know the cover of this book, I'm glad you brought it up, was designed and created by a 14-year-old student here at Grace Christian School.
Cool.
And I use the artwork of young students here at the school to create my cover. So I already know who the 5 artists are. All right. And the next artist is working on the cover right now. I've already been in communication with the parents, and they're excited, and the student is excited. So they're working on the cover right now, and we really won't have a cover probably till January. But that's, because that's how they are. And so it'll work when that book is revealed. Then the next artist will be notified, hey, I'd like to use your work, so on and so forth. But that's and I'm glad Emma is here. Emma participated in Lost Summer. She was one of the guest editors of Lost Summer. The cover art was created by a Grace student, but then there were 6 students that I had do what Sarah did, but only they did oh, Mr. Brown, you misspelled this, or you misspelled that, or And so Emma was one of the guest editors.
Ooh.
Well, I noticed that Faith is not yet listed on Amazon, David. So how can we purchase Faith, and is it available as an ebook?
Well, two good questions. So I had all of my students stand up at chapel and repeat my website after me. I said, repeat after me, www.getmynewbook.com. So getmynewbook.com is it.
Okay.
Getmynewbook.com. And that's the publisher that I work with. I have not, I think, and you'll have to walk me through the Amazon process. I believe Amazon has a threshold or something like that. If you don't directly go through them, you have to have a threshold of sales, I heard.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And so I don't believe I've reached that threshold with Faith. Maybe if you combine Spirit Soundings and Lost Summer Sales, maybe there's an argument there. But so you would go through getmynewbook.com,
Okay.
and that's where you would find all of my books.
Great. Your Spirit Soundings are there. They are on Amazon. I didn't
Yes, they
see
are.
Lost Summer.
Right,
So that must need a few more sales.
right.
To be
So when I started, I had a different publisher with Spirit Soundings, and built into the package was placing it on Amazon. I've since switched publishers out in Oklahoma, and so they've taken all of the books and they've placed them on their website.
Okay, great. Good to know. Sarah, did you want to say anything else before we open it up to questions? I think we've lost Sarah again.
To me,
There we go.
toggling between speakers.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear us, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything you wanted to add to what
No,
you?
I would just encourage people to really get it. Like I said, I'm excited to get it in the hands of my kids and have them start journaling. They see me journal all the time. I'm not as an early riser as Mr. Brown, but I do get up early in the morning, and that is when I'm, doing my quiet time, and I've got my little notebook out and I'm journaling my prayers. So I just think it's really powerful. And so I love that Mr. Brown's incorporated and chosen to include this aspect of prayer journaling in his writing.
Great. What a good tool especially for kids now, because sometimes the world seems like a really ugly place to them, and it does to us adults. But, we've seen all this before, and we've learned how to cope and how to use our faith to get us through. But it's something that high school and middle school students especially, I think, need help with. They need tools like this. So thank you, David, for providing that tool. Does anybody else have a question for David?
Me,
Marie?
yes. Okay, as I'm listening to this, I am just totally awestruck. I journal. I keep a gratitude journal. So every day at the end of the day, I have to write down 5 things that I'm grateful for. And some days it can be a struggle. 5 is a lot on some days. And so it forces me to, during the day, search for something, even on a bad day, that I can remember that, okay, I am grateful for this. I too get up early. I was impressed with myself because I go to bed about 9 o'clock and I get up between 5:30 and 6, but I can kind of see that that's nothing, So, but I also in the morning I pray. Now the reason I'm so blown away by hearing this, for whatever reason, it has never occurred to me to journal my prayers. Now I have a prayer that I did write, and it's my stress prayer. And when something is just not good going on, or I'm struggling with something, I have that prayer and I read it. And since I wrote it, it's very, personal and for me to God. And so I'll use that. Otherwise, I have a prayer that I also wrote, and I use that every morning to try to help me, kickstart my day and so forth. That's it. Just those two prayers. It's never occurred to me,
Hmm.
and not that that's the only two prayers I ever do, but it's never occurred to me to journal my prayers. And so I mean, and I'm old, I've been around forever, and I'm spiritual, and I have a great relationship with God. So why has this never occurred to me? I don't know, but
You were meant to be here today, Maureen.
evidently, and I had a heck of a time getting on. So I am so glad that
I'm
I
glad you're
made
here
it,
too.
because
I
I
am.
love this thought. I love this idea. And I will do my best to try to figure out how I can get your book so that I can
Sure.
use that as my intro into this whole new direction. I love it. And so thank you so much for, what you've done.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Anybody else have a question for David?
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
So clearly, like you've written all these prayers, like you're the one who wrote them, but what what is something that the Lord has taught you or surprised you with or reminded you about as you're going back through your prayers?
Right. So all of my prayers, whenever I review them, I'm impressed by the timeless quality that they have. Because if you look through faith, I think there's no prayer that is younger than 2007.
Hmm.
And that's going on, 16 years ago. So the timeless quality reflects the fact that it comes from God. The prayers aren't stale. Everything I receive, even the preface of the book, I tell how I receive those prayers every night at sea. And so those words aren't my words. They're words I receive from the Lord. And so when I wrote them down, I can read a prayer from 2000 and it seems as fresh as if I wrote it last night.
Yeah.
And that just lets me know that that's the Holy Spirit, not David Brown with his limited smarts, writing something down. It's definitely the Holy Spirit guiding those words and those thoughts at that time. So that's what is always refreshing. Like I was going through wisdom this morning. I was like, gosh, that's such a great thought that I had. And then, boy, I was like, man, I haven't read that in a while because I have to start actually writing the book. And so some of the prayers for wisdom have really just sparked my imagination, but they have a timeless quality that is comes from God.
Hmm. And don't you think, David, that there is a universal humanity, that we all have these same needs and hungers that need to
I would
be-
say yes. I mean, because we come from one creator and
Yeah.
we have one imago Dei in all of us. I mean, multiplied 8.5 billion times. Sometimes on a creative level, God is like this show off and he can just do all this, the same imprint 8.5 billion times. Try to match me. Can't do it. But so all of us have that. And he designed us like that so that we would seek him. We've got free
Exactly.
will and free choice, but boy, it's a scramble to get the message of the Lord out to the people to get them reconnected, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Along those lines, well, Jean published my devotional book called After Rain.
Right. I love that.
And thank you. And, it's always a struggle to write for me. As much writing as I do, it's always a struggle. And I told Jean, I said, I wrote this during the pandemic lockdown and it just flowed. I mean, I didn't have to struggle at all. The words just came. And so like you, I knew they were from the Holy Spirit. They were not from me, because that was not struggling Cindy. Well, David, would you repeat the 5 topics? I know you have faith and wisdom.
Faith, wisdom, mirrors.
Mirrors.
Yes, and mirrors tracks the path of the Holy Spirit in your life.
Oh, wow.
Can you follow the pattern of God in your life over time? That's what mirrors does. Okay. And then volume 4 is called operations. Operations is the sailor's edition. So I was a sailor. I am a sailor, was a sailor, once a sailor, always a sailor. And so it's like an ode to seafaring. So it's going to have this huge glossary in it for people who've never been to sea, with all these Navy terms and all these sailor terms so they can decipher the book. But I owe one to my shipmates. So operations will be that. Then the last one is sort of light. It's called Journeys. And Journeys is, can you appreciate the different pathways that God places you on? And Journeys is going to take you around the world. I'm going to talk about Palermo. I'm going to talk about Spain. I'm going to talk about Manila and Bangkok. And I'm going to take you around the world in Journeys. And that's sort of finishes off the series in 2025.
Super. Joyce, tell us how you know David.
Oh wow, that's an honor to say.
Wow.
I've known David for a lot of years, a lot of years. He was my neighbor.
Okay.
We were growing up in New Jersey, so I'm just excited for what God is doing in his life and his, and how God has ordered his steps today. And I thank God I got to witness some of that, and it's been a real blessing. And even to be on here today is a real blessing too. And David's always been steady, and I'm just so excited how God's using him. I'm looking forward to getting my book at www.getmynewbook.com. So I'm
Me
getting my
too.
book. And listen to everybody. Faith right now, everybody needs faith.
Oh, yeah.
People are looking for hope or something. Yeah. And I like the idea how you have, from what they're saying, because I don't have the book yet, the devotional and your prayers. And think about, sometimes people don't know what to pray. So you're giving everybody the opportunity to go, oh, that's how you pray,
Yeah.
So it's just such a blessing, it's really a great thing. So I'm really excited about reading it. I'm excited what God is doing and how he's using you today and your beautiful family. And when I saw you're going to do this, I couldn't help but to get on. So I'm sorry I was late, but I couldn't wait to get on.
Glad you're here.
And it's just exciting. I hadn't seen, I'm a little long, but hadn't seen David in years and years. And I moved to Georgia actually 27 years ago, and found out he was in Georgia at one time, and we just connected back, and we have not seen each other for years and years. So it's been a real blessing.
You were meant to have a connection, weren't you? First
Absolutely.
New Jersey, then Georgia.
Yeah, and then I got to see him in Hawaii.
Oh my goodness, you can't get away from her, David.
That's right.
Nope, he's stuck with me.
Yeah, and I'll say this: Joyce has literally known me all of my life.
Wow.
Literally. Okay, from the time I was born till today. She has literally known me all of my life. And she's come from a beautiful family. She has a beautiful family. They're all grown-ups now. All your children are grown-ups. Yeah, they're all grown-ups. Mine, I'm following right behind you, Joyce. But we could look at each other's backyards. That's where how close we grew up. But Joyce has literally known me all of my life. And it's such a blessing to see her again and to reconnect. So thank you, Joyce, for being.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited.
Good.
You're stuck with me. We're in the Never Go Club.
There are worse things that can happen and worse people that you can be stuck with. So hey, that's I'm doing really well.
If you're ever in witness protection, David, I think Joyce will find you.
I will find him.
I think so.
And then I'll act like I wouldn't know you. I'll just give you like,
wink, wink.
Thank you.
Well,
David, the time remaining is yours for anything else you want to add.
Well, I'll just say thanks again for everybody being here. It means a lot. When you put things out on Facebook or you put things out on any kind of social media, you make an announcement for a book. You have these grandiose ideas of what it's going to look like and what it's going to be like. And, God always reminds me that anything big always starts small. You never start anything big, never starts big. Right. And so it always starts with a tremor, and then the tremor becomes an earthquake. And so I'm just really grateful for all of you who are here today to take part in this virtual launch. It means everything to me. And so I just want to just sincerely thank you for taking your time out of your day just to be here. And a special thanks again to Sarah for her. I'm glad that God worked through the audio challenges and we were able to hear your review. That means a lot to me. But I did want to read a portion of the book, if that's okay.
Please.
Okay, so I wanted to read, every story is a good story, but there are two stories that stick out to me, and I'll just read them. The first one is from week number 2, and week 2 is entitled Finding Faith and Finding God. And week 2, day 1, the devotional is called Our Hearts Are Open. And it reads like this. When I met my wife, she didn't need me for anything. She was a career woman who had a graduate degree, good job, owned a house, a car, and she had a strong relationship with Jesus Christ. I, on the other hand, was a broke seminary student. So broke that if it cost a quarter to go around the world, I would have been short 15 cents. There was nothing that my big dreams and empty pockets could add to or enhance her life. Yet, she chose me, asking me to go out with her on our first date. After nearly 3 decades of marriage, I must deduce that her choice was based upon love because, again, I had nothing that added to her life. Praise God that she was secure enough to make that decision out of love. I think we all sort of have that same story when it comes to our relationship with God. Yes, the Almighty, everlasting, ever-loving God does not need any one of us, nor anything from us. This belief holds true for all humanity. 8 billion plus people collectively cannot add a single anything to enhance the glory and greatness of our God. Nothing. Yet, it is his nature to invite us to come to him and have a relationship with him. It's a choice that he initiates out of his perfect, pure love so that we could be the benefactors of that love, Romans 5:8. His love for us compels him to seek us out and have a relationship with him. If you have not done so, I would encourage you today to take him up on this offer by opening your heart to his presence, Revelations 3:20. That's all he requires, your open, willing heart to save, soothe, heal, and love. Okay, and then it goes into a prayer, and just like Sarah said, it has a section where you can write a devotion. So I wanted to read that one, and then I wanted to read one that's sort of going to date me as far as age. So it's from week number 5, day 2. It's called Patience and Petition and Patience. It reads, I'm old enough to remember the 1970s Heinz ketchup commercials on TV that had a very clever way to promote a unique aspect of their product. Their ketchup was thick, poured slowly out of the bottle, and the slowness symbolized quality and great taste. Oh, the visuals in those commercials were so mouth-watering. Tipping the bottle at an angle and watching those agonizingly slow-moving first drops and globs of ketchup finally leaving the bottle and hitting their mark on a sizzling hot hamburger and French fries with this song playing in the background. I'm not going to sing it, but maybe I should sing it.
Yes.
Anticipation, anticipation is making me wait. It's keeping me waiting. I think you have to be over 40 to appreciate that song. Anyway, and the commercials would end with this slogan, Heinz ketchup, it's slow good. In essence, they were saying, just be patient because our ketchup has a taste that's truly worth the wait. Exercising patience is an essential trait in our faith experience with God. Waiting is an important characteristic of that trait. Obedience and preparation are most likely the others. Through patience, God lovingly teaches us that he is faithful, trustworthy, and true. But we are inherently impatient creatures who have been conditioned by our modern society to manufacture our own outcomes when God seems to be taking too long. See Genesis 16, 1-5. That's the story of Abraham and Sarah waiting on a baby, and they figure plan B with Hagar, and they say, this must be it. Anyhow, we often forget that God is not bound by chronos, our timing, but he operates within kairos, his perfect timing. When this happens, our patience in waiting on the Lord will bring spiritual benefits that far outweigh the impulses of instant gratification. Every time we wait upon the Lord and watch him come through, he grows bigger and makes our faith bolder and fills our heart with bristling joy, which provides more fuel for the journey. Exercising patience in God will consistently show you that he is truly worth the wait. Okay, so those are two I wanted to share with you.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm reminded throughout this whole session that there are two kinds of prayer. There's the speaking part, but there's also the listening part. And thank you for being a listener and sharing that with us, because that's what it takes when maybe life isn't going so great and we forget, we're crying out to God, and of course he hears us, but he also wants to speak to us through our hearts, through our spirit. And you allow that to happen. So thank you for being a God whisperer, and thank you for sharing it with us.
You're welcome.
This has been wonderful, and I can't wait to read your book.
Well, great. Again, www.getmynewbook.com.
Yay.
And that's the website. And I'm going to post that again tonight on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
It's a real simple website to remember, and just put it out there. But so I'm really excited. Again, thank you for this opportunity to share. Sometimes I sit back and amazed. I can't believe that this got published, but it's just all God, and
That looks like a cover.
It does look like a cover, and it is a cover, and it was painted by a young lady named Alyssa Delaney. She's a 9th grade student here at Grace Christian School, and it has coordinates down here, longitude and latitude coordinates, and you've got to figure out where they are. I don't tell people where it is. So same thing with wisdom. They're going to have coordinates here, and you've got to figure it out. I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but look it up. And so it chronicles the different places I've been on the planet. I've been privileged to see or be at or take a vantage point from. So that's the purpose of that.
Well, unless anybody has any